Joining us now, Joe DiGenova, legal analyst, former U.S. attorney to the District of Columbia, and loves to start his week with us. And we love to start our week with him. Hey, Joe, good morning.
Good morning.
Rudy Giuliani came out and said that the president will not sit for an interview with Mueller after September 1st because he doesn't want it to interfere with the midterm elections, but that could see Robert Mueller issuing a subpoena before the midterm elections. So is this a smart tact for the administration to take?
Well, it's not the administration. It's the president's personal lawyer. The White House counsel has said nothing about this. But here's the point. This dance that's going on publicly between Rudy and Jay Sekulow and the special counsel's office is just that. It's a public discussion of a very serious legal issue which involves whether or not Mueller has the right to subpoena the President of the United States if the President does not agree to a voluntary interview, which, of course, he should not. And the reason he should not is that there's no evidence of any crime that's been committed involving the Russians, and Mueller has charged none. There is no evidence that the President has any knowledge that Mr. Mueller doesn't already possess. And if that's the case, under the case law, he has no right to subpoena the President. But more important than that, there is no criminal case. If that's the case, why is he threatening a subpoena, which he did last March? He threatened a subpoena. He can't subpoena a president for a non-criminal matter, which is what he's doing. He's investigating for purposes of impeachment in a counterintelligence matter. You cannot use a grand jury subpoena for impeachment purposes. That is unconstitutional, it's illegal, and worse than that for a lawyer, it's unethical. But I don't think that bothers Mueller. I think he's lost it. I just don't understand what he is doing. If he was going to subpoena the president, he would have and should have done so a long time ago. It doesn't make any sense that he's waiting this long.
Joe, why is this playing out in public? You talk about it being a public dance. Why do we hear so routinely from Rudy Giuliani, from Jay Sekulow, about the terms of what they're trying to set up with Mueller?
Because this is not a criminal case. It's the lead-up to impeachment, and therefore it is a political matter. It is the matter that the public has a right to know about. And so Giuliani and Sekulow and the president have decided that because it's so important, and because there is no evidence of a crime, and because it's obvious from the very beginning that this Russia probe has been made up out of whole cloth by Rosenstein and others, they're going to fight it out in public because it's the court of public opinion that matters in any threatened impeachment proceeding. But remember, this is about impeachment. It is not about a criminal case. There is no criminal case.
Well, they're finding some purchase here. New polling showing that a majority of Americans have been totally fatigued. They're calling it Russia fatigue. Zogby finding that 52% of voters believe it is time for Bob Mueller to end his probe. Just 30% do not want it ended. This is an indication that the president's strategy seems to be working here, which is basically talk this thing to death and then convince the public that he was in the right the whole time to preclude those impeachment proceedings, as you're saying.
The president has decided that he must defend himself against false accusations.
Yeah.
He is absolutely correct. The Russia probe has been made up from the beginning by senior officials of the FBI and DOJ. And if there were a serious grand jury to investigate the conduct of the Obama administration, FBI, and DOJ, that is exactly what it would show.
Omarosa made the tour this weekend of the talk shows, and she released tape that she recorded of John Kelly in the Situation Room firing her. Does she have a legal problem now?
Well, if she were still on the White House staff, she would be fired for that. But, the ultimate sanction for violations like this is A, you get fired, or B, if you're fired, you never get a security clearance again. Now, my guess is that Omarosa is never going to have the opportunity to want or need a security clearance again. But prosecuting her criminally for this is highly unlikely, given who she is and what she is. She's clearly a very disturbed woman with a troubled past and apparently going to have a very troubled future. That poor guy, her fiancé or her new husband.
They're married,
oh my God. Boy, do I feel sorry for him.
How unusual is it for somebody to walk in with any kind of device, a phone even, into a skiff? Because you've got this briefing room which is specifically built to be a skiff, secure site.
Yeah, it's completely unusual, and it's forbidden because when you sign your papers for your security clearance, you agree to all the rules and regulations surrounding SCIFs, which is a secure information center. Mm-hmm. The problem with what she did is it violates all the rules concerning SCIFs and secure facilities. So the bottom line is she would have lost her security clearance, and she will never get one again.
Now, above and beyond that, prior to us finding out about the John Kelly recording, we also know that she recorded the President of the United States on multiple occasions. She shared some of that audio, I believe, with the Washington Post to confirm some of their reporting, about what he had said in those environments. She has recordings of the President. Is there anything that sort of is more accelerated or more legally perilous about that exchange?
No. The District of Columbia is a one-party consent to recording. In Maryland, for example, is a two-party. Both people have to agree to the recording in Maryland. In D.C., if one person decides to record and doesn't tell the other person, that's legal. So she hasn't violated that law. She has, however, violated all of the rules and restrictions on having a security clearance.
All right, let's move on to the Mueller trial and what's going on there. The judge in this trial, the Manafort trial, the judge in this trial, very colorful, Judge Ellis, but are his comments going to be problematic down the road? Are we looking at a setup here for some kind of mistrial because of the judge's comments?
Well, I don't think that Judge Ellis is going to declare a mistrial over his own behavior, which is the only way you get a mistrial when a judge declares it. I don't think the government is going to request it because they think they're going to win. They think they've made their case. Now, whether or not Mr. Manafort requests it is another question. I doubt it, sincerely. But he may have a legal issue on appeal about the judge overreaching and creating an atmosphere inimical to his, Manafort's, interests. He may argue that the judge has acted so bitterly against the prosecution that he created sympathy for the prosecution and harmed Manafort. That is a potential, if Manafort is convicted, that is a potential argument for Manafort. But suffice it to say, Judge Ellis is an unusual judge. He's known for his unusual behavior on the bench, interfering with lawyers, criticizing them. This is sometimes federal judges do this. It's kind of unfortunate.
All right. If you're going to stick with us, we have a couple more questions for you, Joe. We appreciate that. And we're joined here by Joe DiGenova, legal analyst, former U.S. attorney to the District of Columbia. And we wanted to ask you about Bruce and Nellie Orr.
That's right. Bruce Orr getting some attention thanks to this weekend to the President of the United States tweeting, Joe, the big story that the fake news media refuses to report is lowlife Christopher Steele's many meetings with Deputy Attorney General Bruce Orr and his beautiful wife, Nellie. It was Fusion GPS that hired Steele to write the phony and discredited dossier. He talks about how Bruce still works for the Department of Justice and mentions that Attorney General Sessions is, quote, scared stiff and missing in action. So many reports we've seen lately, Joe, about Bruce Orr's, not from the mainstream press, by the way, about Bruce Orr's many extended contacts with Christopher Steele before and after the election and his involvement in the compilation of the Trump dossier and getting it into the FBI. What do you make of all this?
Well, more important than the dossier, which of course Steele was involved in, is the fact that after he was fired by the FBI for talking to the press, allegedly in violation of their agreement, he then continued to give information to Bruce Orr, which Bruce Orr then gave to the FBI, with the FBI knowing that it was coming from the person that they had fired. That's one thing. Second of all, the FBI, never informed the court, nor did the Justice Department inform the court that after they fired Steele, they continued to get information from him through a senior Justice Department official. Let me just say this in no uncertain terms. What Bruce Orr has done is a fireable offense. Why he continues to work at the Justice Department and has not been fired is beyond me. Why he has not been told to get a lawyer and why he has not been. Maybe he's been placed in front of a grand jury and we don't know about that. The only thing that saves him, in my view, is if he has already been in front of a grand jury. Because what you are watching, notwithstanding the idiotic editorials of the Washington Post, is 7 days in May. This is a coup d'etat. It isn't a soft coup. I hear people referring to the Russian investigation as a soft coup. This is a hard coup. This is a direct assault on a sitting president started by someone with no brains. That would be Rod Rosenstein, the biggest coward in the federal government. And if anybody thinks he's going to hold anybody accountable, all they have to do is to look at the way he ran away from his own decision in recommending the firing of James Comey when he found out that the president had had conversations with Comey that he, Rosenstein, didn't know about. This is an amazing set of circumstances. Bruce Orr still works at the Justice Department. Put that in your brain. Just think about that for a minute. The only thing that would explain that is that if he's cooperating and has testified before the grand jury, but also he's still the chief of the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Section. What the hell is that?
And he's scheduled to come before Congress on August 28th, according to Congressman Mark Meadows. He'll be appearing before that Joint Committee, House Oversight and Judiciary.
In a deposition out of the public eye, thank God.
Thank God? You think that's good or no?
I think it's very good, because when you watch these public hearings, they can't get anything done. 5 minutes of questioning, screaming by the Democrats, trying to do anything they can to prevent the truth from coming out. The best thing for this investigation is to do everything behind closed doors and have it leak out.
Now, if he's already been in front of a grand jury, there would be no reason to have him testify in front of them behind closed doors, correct?
No.
No?
That's
Okay.
every reason in the world. Listen, the whole purpose of having closed-door testimony is that they allow one person, one member or two members, to do all the questioning. So that means Trey Gowdy gets 30 minutes. Then they give it to a Democrat for 30 minutes. Then it's back to 30 minutes from Goodlatte. When you have depositions behind closed doors, the rules for public hearings don't apply. And that means, let's say they want to let Gowdy question Bruce Orr first for 3 hours. The chairman can order that. He can't do that in a public hearing because of rules. So there's no doubt. The only way to get this stuff and get it right is closed hearings with unlimited questions by the majority.
Right. And also, if they can get somebody like Glenn Simpson to come in for another one of these hearings subsequently, the fact that this is held in secret precludes him from comparing notes if it's a public hearing.
Right.
Yep.
So that could be used to their advantage. Joe DiGenova, thanks as always. Really appreciate your
Yes,
insight.
super interesting. Thank you, Joe.